What gives you energy? What stimulates your senses? What fills you with adrenaline? What really gets you going?
Silent night, holy night, all is calm, all is bright, round yon virgin mother and child.
This is the Lamborghini Aventador SVJ Roadster. It's a drop-top version of the iconic SVJ Coupe. And more than anything, this car was built for one purpose: to stimulate the senses. It uses the same 6.5-litre naturally aspirated V12. It makes the same 770 horsepower. And it has the same damn near 220 mile/hour top speed, except here, you can use it with the roof down. And trust me when I tell you, there is no bigger rush. Forget your espressos and your energy drinks. If you want to feel stimulated, take a ride in one of these. It stimulates every single one of your senses and just sends them into overdrive.
A big part of that rush comes from the removable roof, which puts you even closer to the action. With it down, you hear more, you feel more, you experience more. This isn't just an SVJ, it's an SVJ that brings you closer to the action.
Let's talk power, shall we? So we've got the big V12 behind me, 0 to 62 in 2.9 seconds, 220 flat out, but as always with the SVJ, it's the bit in the middle that really defines the experience.
A lot of that is down to the gearbox, a 7-speed single-clutch robotized manual. It's rubbish at low speeds, lurching between gears like it's broken. But in the most aggressive Corsa mode, it changes gears as if it wants to break you.
Corsa engaged, traction off, thrust mode possible. Oh my God! That is just violence. This gearbox, it is the most violent gearbox I have ever driven, and that includes in manuals. In most other cars, when you do a launch control, that initial launch is all you get. But in this thing, first, second, third, fourth, every single gear change is a violent event.
So what we have here is the ultimate Lambo. They've taken all the best bits of the SVJ Coupe and, by removing the roof, made it even more involving. But have they made it better? Well, maybe not. Some would argue, and I'd be inclined to agree with them, that with this Roadster, Lamborghini might have made the SVJ worse. That 2-piece carbon roof is completely manual, so raising it in a hurry when the heavens open is a complete nightmare. You'll need to drop the windows, move the seats, open the latches, remove the panels in the correct order, and place them in the gaps in a perfectly pre-prescribed position. It's a fast and thrilling car with an exceptionally slow and annoying roof that arguably ruins what the SVJ was built for in the first place.
Secondly, Lamborghini designed the SVJ Coupe for a very specific purpose: to set the outright lap record at the Nurburgring, and they succeeded. But this Roadster is 50 kilograms heavier than the Coupe. Now 50 kilos might not sound like an awful lot, but trust me, it's not good for your lap time. It's not good for your acceleration, your deceleration, or your handling. Thirdly, Lamborghini spent years developing a fancy ALA system. It's this aero system that perfectly distributes your downforce front and rear and left and right, and it worked perfectly in the Coupe. But then in the Roadster, they went and gouged a massive hole in the top, and you can't tell me that that's good for your downforce. that has got to mess up your aero. It's almost like they perfected the recipe with the coupe, and then with the Roadster just went and ruined it.
This is nothing new, of course. Most convertibles are inherently compromised from a performance perspective. The true joy they provide comes from the pleasure of going for a simple cruise, although there's not much pleasure to be had from cruising in an SVJ.
It's a struggle, honestly. These seats are horrendously uncomfortable. I think they're made from Alcantara and rocks. Also, the driving position is a total nightmare. If you're over 6'1", don't bother trying to drive this car. Your head will touch the ceiling, and without the roof, your head actually sticks out above the windscreen. So the top of your face is just freezing the whole time, especially in weather like this. It's also quite noisy in here. A, from the wind noise, but B, from the exhaust, and C, from the really wide tires that generate so much road noise. It's genuinely uncomfortable. The car's actually got quite a good stereo, but to hear anything, you've got to crank it up to maximum volume, and then you've got the stereo competing with all the other noises that it can leave you with a bit of a headache, if I'm honest. And here's the kicker. This car, this particular one, cost nearly £500,000, £500,000 to drive a car that when you get out makes you feel like you've just been beaten up.
But that's the beauty and charm of an Aventador SVJ. Driving one is not a passive experience. This supercar is a throwback to a time when every minute spent behind the wheel was a real event. It is a proper weapon.
On first impressions, it would seem that this Aventador SVJ Roadster isn't quite as sophisticated as some other mid-engine supercars, but the reason for that is because the driving experience is dominated by that amazing engine and that ridiculous gearbox. But dig below the surface and you can find a real gem. There's so many highlights to this car. The brakes are absolutely tremendous. 400mm carbon ceramics on the front, 380 mils on the back. They're so easy to use, so simple to modulate, and it gives you so much confidence to drive this car fast. The grip levels in this car are absolutely astonishing. You can throw it into a corner at barely believable speeds and it just grips, no worries whatsoever. On a track, maybe I could feel the benefit of the amazing aerodynamics, but out here it's all down to these Pirelli P0 coursers. Some people accuse the Aventador of being on rails, of being completely stuck down, but not true. The steering is incredibly fast, incredibly direct, and it's constantly moving in your hands. It's not bristling with feel, but it gives you a sense of connection with the road, and you know exactly what the car is doing at any given time. It also has rear wheel steering, so the turning is absolutely incredible. It's not a small car, the Aventador, it's actually quite big, but it feels a lot smaller than it is because it is so agile and so responsive. And it's not heavy either, 1,600 kilos with 770 horsepower. Trust me, that's pretty decent. This rain is just horrendous, but there's one last thing I want to talk about, and that is the all-wheel drive system. As you brake into a corner, it actually disengages the front axle, so the car feels a lot more like a rear-wheel drive car. It's quite astonishing. And did I mention the noise? Did I mention the power? All of which you get so much more of because there's no roof. It makes you feel completely alert, completely alive. This is the very definition of a supercar.
With super unleaded coursing through its cylinders and adrenaline coursing through your veins, you won't want to stop, but it's inevitable you will. No stimulant lasts forever, especially one as potent as this. It will beat you into submission, forcing you to slow things down, gather your thoughts, and reflect on how much of this particular thrill you can actually take. It might not be as technically impressive as the coupe. Its approach might not be as sophisticated as other supercars, but that's almost irrelevant, because in the SVJ Roadster, Lamborghini has built a supercar that will stimulate you like no other.